In the summer of 2026, Lil Durk, once the untouchable king of Chicago drill, sits in federal custody facing life in prison as his empire crumbles under the weight of a devastating RICO indictment. While Durk's inner circle collapses, with loyal soldiers allegedly turning into government witnesses, one man has remained eerily silent: Chief Keef, the pioneer who started it all. Once brothers in the same violent streets, Keef and Durk's paths violently diverged. Keef, the man who put drill on the global map, chose distance, business, and discretion. Durk, the global superstar with Grammy wins and millions in the bank, stayed deeply embedded in the streets he once rapped about escaping. Now, as OTF faces total annihilation, Keef stands untouched, still performing, still building, still free. How did the same streets that destroyed Durk spare Chief Keef? Why did Keef refuse to help Durk years ago when he needed it most? What did Keef see that Durk refused to acknowledge? And was Keef's silence the ultimate survival strategy, or something far more calculated? This isn't just another rap fall from grace. It's a brutal case study in loyalty, ego, and the deadly cost of street fame. To understand how we got here, we have to go back to the very beginning, when two of Chicago's biggest voices stood on the same side of history. While Durk's world appears to be collapsing, one man has remained conspicuously silent through it all: Chief Keef. The contrast could not be more striking. Chief Keef, the artist who literally invented the sound that took Durk to the mountaintop, continues to move freely. He performs at major festivals, builds legitimate businesses, supports his family, and stays far removed from a federal storm swallowing his former peers. In the streets and on social media, the question echoes louder every day: how did the pioneer who came first manage to survive while the man who followed him so closely now stands on the brink of destruction? This story has captivated the entire hip-hop community because it feels like more than just another rap case. It represents the brutal fork in the road that every street-rooted artist eventually faces: the choice between evolution and entrapment. Chief Keef and Lil Durk both rose from the same violent blocks of Chicago. Both carried the pain of the same streets. Both became global symbols of drill music. Yet one appears to have learned the game's hidden rules, while the other may have paid the ultimate price for ignoring them. For millions of fans, this hits personally. Durk was never just an entertainer. He became the voice of a generation that grew up with King Von's death, constant gun violence, and the constant pressure of being solid. His music, from Like That to What Happened to Virgil, gave millions a language for their grief and ambition. Now those same fans watch as the man they looked up to faces allegations that his inner circle is crumbling, with former loyalists reportedly cooperating with federal authorities. The hip-hop world has seen falls before, but this one feels different. It's not just about one man's mistakes. It's about the cost of staying too close to the streets while shining the brightest. Durk built a massive empire under the OTF banner. He signed artists, provided for families, and tried to be the leader his community needed. Yet that same loyalty, according to prosecutors and street insiders, may have become the very thing that trapped him. Meanwhile, Chief Keef's silence speaks volumes. He has not dropped diss tracks. He has not posted cryptic messages. He has not inserted himself into the drama. Instead, he is focused on business, music, and self-preservation. Many in Chicago and beyond quietly view him as the winner in this unspoken battle, the one who kicked down the door for an entire generation but refused to let that same door pull him back into the fire. This narrative has divided the culture. Some praise Keef for his maturity and calculated distance. Others accuse him of abandoning his people. But the facts remain: Keef is free, active, and building. Durk is locked up, watching his empire face potential annihilation. The story forces uncomfortable questions about loyalty, ego, intelligence, and survival in the modern rap game. Why do people care so deeply? Because this isn't just about two rappers. It's about the dream and the nightmare of coming from nothing. It's about whether it's truly possible to escape the streets when the streets refuse to let you go. Durk's mother has publicly spoken about urging her son to change his lyrics and move differently. Her pain, captured in raw interviews, reflects what so many mothers in Chicago have felt, watching their children rise only to be pulled back down by the same forces they tried to outrun. The federal case against Durk has also exposed deeper tensions inside Chicago drill. Allegations of snitching, old betrayals, and shifting alliances have resurfaced. Names like D. Rose, who allegedly crossed Keef years ago, and various OTF affiliates now caught in the legal web, add layers of tragedy and irony to the story. As Durk's trial date looms, the hip-hop community finds itself forced to confront a painful truth: talent and success are not always enough. Strategy matters. Timing matters. And sometimes, silence is the most powerful move of all. Chief Keef's quiet presence in the background of this chaos has only amplified the drama. Many wonder if he saw this coming years ago. Many ask why he chose a different path when so many others couldn't or wouldn't. The empire Durk spent years building is under siege. And in the middle of the storm, the man who started it all watches from a distance, silent, unbothered, and still standing. The story between Chief Keef and Lil Durk did not begin with beef or betrayal. It began in the same brutal corners of Chicago's South Side, where survival demanded sharp instincts and where every decision carried consequences that could last a lifetime. Keith Cozart, known to the world as Chief Keef, emerged first. By 2011 and 2012, while still a teenager, he had already transformed the sound of Chicago drill into something the world could not ignore. Songs like I Don't Like and Love Sosa did more than go viral. They announced the arrival of a new generation that refused to soften its reality for mainstream comfort. Keef became the face of that movement almost overnight. Record deals followed. Fame followed. But so did attention from law enforcement. At the same time, a young Durk Banks was grinding in the same environment. He had not yet reached Keef's level of visibility, but he was respected in the streets and already showing the melodic talent that would later define his career. The two artists moved in overlapping circles. There was no public animosity in those early days, only the shared understanding that both were trying to escape the same cycle while the streets watched closely. Then came the murder of Lil Jojo in September 2012. Jojo, a young rival, was killed in a shooting that many in Chicago believed was connected to the escalating drill war. Federal authorities, already monitoring rising violence tied to the music scene, began paying closer attention to the key figures involved. Target letters started reaching lawyers. The heat was real and growing. It was during this period that Durk found himself in trouble. He was arrested on gun charges and needed money to post bond. According to multiple street accounts that have circulated for years, Durk reached out to Keef for help. The amount discussed was significant, enough to get him out while he fought the case. Keef did not send the money. He did not show up. He stayed silent. That single decision became a turning point that would echo for over a decade. Those close to the situation later explained that Keef had already sensed the federal pressure building after Jojo's murder. He understood that posting large sums of money for someone under investigation could pull him deeper into a web he wanted no part of. While others saw it as disloyalty or cheapness, Keef appeared to view it as self-preservation. The streets did not see it that way at the time. Resentment began to grow. The situation worsened when Keef was robbed inside his own home by individuals connected to a block, the same neighborhood that would later become closely aligned with Lil Durk. According to accounts, D. Rose, a figure who had once moved with Keef's circle, was involved in an incident where shots were fired inside Keef's residence. The betrayal cut deep. Keef had given opportunities and shown loyalty to people who later turned against him in his own space. After that night, Keef's trust in the old circle eroded completely. Rather than retaliate publicly or stay entangled, Keef made another calculated move. He began pulling away. He left Chicago for extended periods, focused on building his own lane, and avoided the constant street drama that consumed so many others. While he continued making music, he also started laying the foundation for legitimate businesses, including cannabis dispensaries and other ventures that would later provide real financial independence. He kept his circle small. He spoke less. He let the noise pass without feeding it. Durk, by contrast, chose a different path. As Keef stepped back, Durk stepped forward and became the most visible face of Chicago drill. He founded Only the Family, brought in artists, and built a brand that mixed music with street loyalty. When King Von joined the movement, the chemistry became undeniable. Durk's pain, his storytelling, and his ability to turn grief into anthems connected with millions. After Von's murder in Atlanta in November 2020, Durk's response was emotional and public. He carried the weight of that loss into his music and into his actions. The cycle of retaliation continued, and Durk remained at the center of it. Throughout these years, Keef watched from a distance. He did not insert himself into the new wave of conflicts. He did not chase the same level of street validation that Durk appeared to still need. While Durk was building an empire that required constant management of people, loyalty, and protection, Keef was quietly securing his own future. He performed when he wanted, moved when he wanted, and kept his legal exposure minimal. The same streets that once crowned him now viewed him with a mix of respect and resentment. Respect for what he had survived, resentment that he had chosen distance over continued involvement. By the time federal prosecutors began building their case against Durk in connection with the 2022 killing of Lil Durk, the contrast between the two men had become impossible to ignore. Durk had stayed deeply connected to the environment that made him famous. Keef had created separation. One man's decisions led to increased federal scrutiny. The other man's decisions allowed him to remain free, active, and financially stable more than a decade after his initial explosion. This history is not simple. It is filled with ego, miscommunication, genuine survival instincts, and the harsh reality that the streets rarely reward those who stay too long. Keef's early refusal to post bond for Durk was not just about money. It was about reading the room when the feds were already circling. The robbery at his home only reinforced the lesson that loyalty in those circles could be one-sided. Durk, carrying the burden of leadership and the pain of losing Von, continued to move in ways that kept him visible and vulnerable. As the federal courthouse in Chicago prepares for what could be one of the most significant trials in modern hip-hop history, the case against Lil Durk has moved far beyond a single murder-for-hire allegation. In early 2026, prosecutors filed a superseding indictment that transformed the original charges into a comprehensive racketeering conspiracy case. Durk now faces accusations of directing only the family as a criminal enterprise responsible for multiple acts of violence, including the 2022 killing of Lil Durk in Los Angeles and other retaliatory shootings tied to the aftermath of King Von's murder. The government's strategy has become clear. They are not simply prosecuting one incident. They are attempting to prove that Durk used his influence, resources, and platform to coordinate violence across state lines. Court filings reference text messages, phone records, unreleased music videos, and witness statements that allegedly show a pattern of decision-making at the highest levels of OTF. Central to this narrative are cooperators who have provided detailed accounts of how orders were allegedly given and carried out. Street sources have long identified OTF Jam as one of the most significant cooperators, claiming he supplied critical information after his own arrest on a separate Chicago murder charge. Federal agents reportedly used that leverage, combined with parole violations and the threat of life in prison, to turn him into a cooperating witness. This development carries deep irony when viewed alongside Chief Keef's earlier decisions. Years before the current federal storm, Keef had already distanced himself from the very circle that prosecutors now claim operated with organized discipline. His refusal to post bond money for Durk during the 2012 to 2013 period, when federal attention was intensifying after Lil Jojo's murder, kept him from becoming entangled in the web that later captured so many others. The robbery at his own home, allegedly involving individuals connected to a block and figures like D. Rose, further hardened his resolve to create distance. While Durk continued to move with the same associates who had once crossed Keef, Keef chose self-preservation over continued involvement. That choice now appears, in retrospect, to have been a decisive factor in why one man remains free while the other faces the full weight of federal prosecution. The human cost of this legal battle extends far beyond the courtroom. Durk's mother has spoken publicly about her repeated attempts to steer her son away from the violent themes that defined much of his music. In raw, emotional interviews, she described urging him to change his lyrics, to process his grief over King Von's death differently, and to recognize that constantly revisiting trauma in song could have consequences. Her words carry the weight of every mother in Chicago who has watched sons rise through music only to be pulled back by the streets they tried to escape. Those pleas, now replayed against the backdrop of federal charges, add a layer of tragedy that no indictment can capture. For the broader hip-hop community, This case has forced an uncomfortable reckoning. Drill music gave voice to realities that mainstream America often ignored. It documented pain, loss, and survival in neighborhoods long abandoned by opportunity. Yet the same music that elevated artists like Durk and Keef also created a permanent record that federal investigators have learned to mine for evidence. Lyrics, videos, and social media posts have been entered into court documents as proof of intent and association. The romanticized code of loyalty celebrated in countless songs has collided with the cold mathematics of federal prosecution, where life sentences become powerful tools to extract cooperation. Chief Keef's continued silence throughout this period stands in stark contrast to the noise surrounding Durk's legal troubles. He has not commented publicly on the case. He has not inserted himself into the drama on social media. He has not used the situation to score points or settle old scores. Instead, he has continued performing at major festivals, expanding his business interests, and maintaining a low public profile. In the streets, this silence is interpreted in different ways. Some see it as maturity and wisdom, the quiet victory of a man who survived the same environment by refusing to stay trapped in it. Others view it as abandonment. But the results are difficult to dispute. Keef remains free, financially stable, and active more than a decade after his initial rise, while Durk's empire faces potential total collapse. This story matters today because it exposes the narrow margin between success and destruction for artists who emerge from environments where violence and loyalty are deeply intertwined. It reveals how federal authorities have adapted their tactics, using cooperators and expansive racketeering laws to target not just individual crimes but entire networks. It forces fans and artists alike to confront the difference between the art that documents street life and the real-life consequences of remaining embedded in that life while achieving mainstream success. As Durk's trial date approaches, the outcome remains uncertain. What is certain is that the contrast between these two paths, one defined by strategic silence and distance, the other by deep entanglement and public loyalty, will continue to shape conversations about survival, legacy, and the true cost of fame in Chicago drill for years to come. The contrast between these two paths could not be clearer. One man chose distance, silence, and self-preservation. The other chose loyalty, visibility, and deep entanglement with the streets that made him famous. Both came from the same environment. Both carried the same pain. Only one remains free. If this story made you reflect on the true cost of staying loyal to the code, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Chief Keef made the smarter decision years ago, or did he turn his back on the people who helped build him? Was Lil Durk's loyalty his greatest strength or his fatal flaw? Your perspective matters in this conversation. If you want more in-depth breakdowns of the cases shaping hip-hop right now, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We don't just report headlines. We go beneath them, tracing the decisions, the betrayals, and the human cost behind every major story. Smash the like button if this documentary gave you something to think about. Every like helps push these stories further and tells us you want more of this level of detail. Share this video with someone who needs to see it. Whether it's an artist still moving in the streets, a fan trying to understand the culture, or anyone who respects real storytelling, these conversations are necessary. The trial is still approaching. New developments will continue to surface. We will be here to break down every filing, every testimony, and every consequence as they unfold.